Morning. Morning.
And let's go before the Lord and ask Him to bless our time. Father God, we thank You for this very day that You have made, and we just rejoice in it. And we thank You that You have blessed us with the opportunity to come together, and we come together in Your name, Lord Jesus. And we ask that You would bless our time, bless the speaker, and bless this food to our body, to Your service, in Jesus' name.
Señor, te damos gracias por este día, te damos gracias por esta grandiosa oportunidad que nos dejas reunirnos para alabar Tu nombre. Te damos gracias por estos alimentos y te pedimos que bendigas al predicador para que a través de él podamos oír su palabra. En el nombre de Jesús. Amén.
Amen.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, guys. Hey, I kind of ran into Keith on the side of the road. His name is Keith Sidwell. He's with the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association, and he's going to give us a real brief presentation before our main speaker starts. Y'all be fine to it, and have at it, Keith.
All right. Well, thank you, Bill. As Bill mentioned, he picked me up off the side of the road and said something about this great event that he hosts, and I couldn't resist. So thank you, Bill, for the invitation and allowing me to be here. As he said, I'm with the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association. You probably know this, that last year, Billy went home to be with the Lord, February 21st, and we're quickly approaching his first year anniversary of going home. I think if you've lost a loved one, that first year is an interesting year. Milestones and memories and such, and so the same is this for the Graham family, that they are facing the first year without their dad. And things are going well. Nothing has changed with the ministry. We're going to keep going forward, proclaiming the gospel wherever we can, and to share the love of Jesus. One thing that I would like to highlight real quick is, has anyone been to the Billy Graham Library up in Charlotte? We got a couple? Well, the Billy Graham Library is set up as an exhibit hall with 13 small exhibits, and really is a walk through history from the beginning to present day of how God has used our ministry. And you will hear the gospel 13 times by the time you finish. And people come to faith at the end of that every day. So God is alive and active, even through a building. It's the story that's told in the building. Your story matters. Share your story. Your story is the gospel alive. You are all evangelists in that way. So be encouraged and keep on sharing your faith. If you have any questions, I'd love to stick around afterward. I've got a brochure here if anyone's interested in learning a little bit more about our ministry and the Billy Graham Library. Thank you, Bill, and good to meet you.
Well, I have a kind of a brief event. I think Doug Sharp is forming our 5th F.U.E.L down in Sebastian as of right now. So that will make number 5. Our speaker for the week is Tom Main, MD. I don't know if you put that when you're retired or not, but Tom is a retired ENT. I'm going to keep it simple. And he is part of our church at Viera, and he spends the other half of the year as part of the church in Columbus, Ohio. And their church has a medical ministry to Haiti. And Tom is going to tell us about what that ministry is about and how they reach out to Haiti. Come on up, Tom.
First of all, this is the reason that I'm in Melbourne to begin with. This is our son Zach. When he moved down here 5 years ago, he took his wife and 3 kids with him. We decided that since he's not going to Alaska, maybe we'll follow him. So, first of all, I want to thank you for And I can tell you that, you know, I've been a Christian for a whole 6 years. I was 70 years old before I accepted Christ. So I mean, I am truly humbled to be here. And I'm just here to share a story with you. Let me find my notes. This whole story is basically about an opportunity that I've had to participate in a mission to the country of Haiti. To start out with, this started with an organization in Columbus, Ohio called Xenos Christian Fellowship. Well, yeah, my wife started going to a Bible study years ago. She came home about 7 years ago, and she said, we've been part of an organized religion for years, and very much just, we would go to church, walk out of church, okay, that's it for the week, I've done my duty. And so she started going to this Bible study. She came home one day, she said, you know, I accepted Christ at this reunion, or at this outing. I said, well, that's fine, what's for dinner? So, you know, I saw changes in her over the several months after that. So I said, okay, I'm going to really see if this is true, because I've grown up with it really at the back of my mind, not in the forefront of my mind. So I spent a year studying, seeing if the creation that I see around me, if there was a creator. And at the end of that year, there's so much evidence that made that so obvious that this universe was created by a creator outside. So I had all this information, and we started going to this church, this church is involved with a lot of study, okay? There are a lot of classes to take. I'll give you a little background on the church. First of all, it's called Xenos. You think, well, that's a weird name. Well, what that means is a sojourner, or someone that's just traveling through. So basically, that's why they came up with that name. We're just traveling through this earth, okay? It was started on campus at Ohio State, at the university, about 1970, 71. There were two guys that, they were pretty good students, but they spent a lot of time smoking dope. And they realized that probably there's more to life than smoking dope. And so they started reading the Bible. And they realized that they didn't stop smoking dope right away, but they read the Bible a lot. And they realized that that's where the truth was to be found. So they started inviting other people. And so then they had a little house called the Fish House, about 15 or 20 people. And after a few years, they graduated, and these people said, why don't you go learn more about this? Why don't you go to get a degree in divinity? So they did. So our church started with small home churches rather than a big building. And so over the last 50 years, it's grown to about 5,000 people there now. And, you know, so this is the church that I'm familiar with that's helped bring me to Christ. So, you know, I'm not saying it's any better than any other church, it's just that's what I'm used to there. And so as part of this, the church is involved in outreach. We've developed a couple, I say we, because I'm part of that church. I didn't personally do this at all, but started 2 schools in the Columbus area. One of them, Zach would remember this, South Linden, yeah, which is the toughest part of town. And so the schools are doing well. They started in conjunction with Youth for Christ, have started a house for abused women. That's just been up and running for about a year. And then part of this, over the last 15 years or so, have developed missions. So Xenos now has a mission that goes to the Ivory Coast, go to Ecuador, go to Cambodia. Actually, our church has been involved in starting a hospital in Cambodia called Mercy Medical Center, and there's a nursing school there too. And the other part is involvement with Haiti. One of our pastors, we don't even call them pastors there, because they try to be very non-traditional in this church, okay? Jim Leffel was a philosophy professor at the university. He has a PhD in philosophy. He realized that he was the only Christian at the university. So Zenos came to him, and he was going to Zenos. He said, hey, we have a deal for you. He said, if you join our staff, we'll give you half the salary and no retirement. He said, how can I turn that down? So he'd been there for 40 years. So he runs our mission program. So he made contact with Dr. Morquette, who started a hospital in Haiti called King's Hospital. And he's part of World Relief International. Okay. I didn't know anything about that, but apparently some of you have heard of it. It's been around about 70 years, and Dr. Morquette heads up the program there in Port-au-Prince. We started going down there in 2007. And the idea is threefold, three prongs for this mission. Number one is to develop theological training. So the idea is we wanted to raise up Haitians that could teach the word in Haiti. The second idea was to provide medical care, and that's where I was involved with it. And the third is to plant home churches. And right now we have 36 home churches in southern Haiti that have been developed over this program. Well, in 2010, you know, Phil was sharing with me, Phil goes to Haiti, northern Haiti. You know, there was an earthquake happened in 2010. So Dr. Morquette said, you know, it's going to be a mess around here. Here's an idea. Why don't you go to southern Haiti with a guy by the name of Pastor Duplessis. And he was part of the Baptist Evangelical Mission of Southern Haiti, I think is the initials for that. And so it started going down there in 2010, right after the earthquake. I went there first in 2012. So let me just give you an idea about what that mission involves. So we get down there, I don't go every time I've been there, but we send a group, a team from Zenos, generally 10 to 12 people. We try to have at least one physician and a dentist. And the others are, sometimes they're 19, 20 years old. We have a big college ministry there. And actually, about 3 or 4 years ago, because of Zika, there weren't any young kids going. There were older people going because of worried about Zika. But let me back up a little bit too and talk with you about Haiti, because Phil and I were talking a little bit about that. Probably several of you guys have been to Haiti for one reason or another. But just to review a little bit of history I thought would be important, because as you know, or maybe you don't know, they were the first group of slaves that were able to have freedom from their masters in the Caribbean. They started a rebellion in the late 1700s, 1795, 1796, and they finally displaced the French from their island. They had independence. Well, there had been about 1 million men and women taken from West Africa to the island of Haiti, to the island of Hispaniola, which Haiti is the western third. And so before the revolution, Haiti was one of the most productive islands in the Caribbean. They were the leading producer of sugar in that range, and coffee as well. There were big plantations. These plantations were owned by the French. And so when the revolution occurred and the French left, now they were without, these people didn't want to work on plantations anymore. You can imagine the hardship of working on these plantations. So they sort of withdrew to family plots, okay? Well, I can mention a couple of books that might be interested to read. One is Travesty in Haiti. A Travesty in Haiti was written by a man by the name of Dubois. And another one is, I don't have it on my notes, somehow it's got in here and changed my notes. Hang on just a second. so the French are gone, so there was the island of Haiti was not recognized by the United States as a country for about 25 years after that. The French said, okay, you've taken the land from our fellow Frenchmen that own these plantations. You gotta pay for that. How are we gonna pay for it? How much? So they said, we will recognize you as an independent country if you pay us. This comes out in US dollars of $21 billion. From 1804, when they had their independence, they paid that until 1947. So that's one of the economic hardships of the country of Haiti. Plus they had a lot of natural disasters, okay? Earthquakes, famines. They were brought there, it's not their home. They had developed their own language, Creole. Only 5% of the people in Haiti speak French. And all the laws were in French. Creole was started from the indigenous people that were on the islands were the Taino people. Creole is a mixture of Taino, Spanish, Portuguese, and French. So if you speak one of those languages, you still can't understand Creole. So here's an example of how going down there. We have a couple of meetings of the team that's going to go. Okay, get to know one another because each team is usually made up of people that haven't been there before, except for the physicians and except for a couple of the team leaders. And my job as a physician was to get the medication. Now, ideally, we would get our medication in Haiti, but that's been unreliable. So we're going to see 350 to 400 patients in a week. We can't very well say, here's a prescription, go to the CVS, because they don't exist. So we have to take all the medication with us. So I get medication from 3 sources. One is Blessings International, the other is Kingsway Charity, and the third is Americans. So make contact with them and say, this is what I need, and they'll say, well, this is what I can give you. And actually, there's a small fee for it, but we pay for it. And then there's a local charity in Franklin County that we can get some medication for they're discounted. So we get about 14 suitcases loaded with this medication and head to the airport. We get to Port-au-Prince, and we're usually met there by a little bus, a van, a truck, any kind of transportation that Pastor Duplessis put together for the trip over the mountain down to Jacmel. It's only about, I think it's about 40 or 50 miles, but it takes about 2.5 hours to get there. It's just, you know, the traffic in Haiti is amazing. Seems like it's pretty chaotic. At any rate, we get down there, we check into a hotel. We usually have reasonable hotels, and we go to dinner every night. At Pastor's wife prepares dinner for the 10 or 12 of us. I mean, it's amazing. She's, you know, we take gifts to her, but she honors us by giving us food. And so we usually get down there on a Friday or Saturday, and then we'll go to church with them on Sunday. What an experience it is to go to that Baptist church. Jim Leffel that I mentioned, he usually does a teaching, and that's translated into Creole. And then Pastor does a teaching in Creole that we don't understand. And then the worship, I mean, it's you know, the music is just amazing, okay? And we try to sing it in Creole, and we act like idiots, but it's really quite an experience. So then on a Monday morning, we try to go to a different village each day. And Pastor has set up an opportunity for us to be, you know, we're going to this city, they expect us there. So we'll load everything up in a truck. And there's a pickup truck. We take nurses, Haitian nurses, Fortunately, we've been able to take a Haitian doctor with us as well, and we take all of our food. We take a generator for the dentist for the drill, and you know, maybe it takes an hour, hour and a half to get to the village, and then there maybe be 40 or 50 people sitting in the courtyard waiting to be seen. They know the doctor's coming. They don't have an appointment, they just know that to be there that day. So usually one of us will give our testimony to them right off the boat. So they know that we're not up here coming down to them, but we are the same ilk. You know, we share the same kind of sins. And there's a method to treat those sins. Okay, so we share the gospel with them straight off the bat. And then some of these patients may sit there for several hours, and that's when the team can engage with them. You know, they can pray with them, they can just be friends, you know, just to develop fellowship with them. So when I see a patient, you know, I'm sitting in a chair, the patient's sitting in a chair, and then I have an interpreter. And so the interpreter will tell me kind of their history, and I have a stethoscope, I have an otoscope, and I have their blood pressure and their pulse. So I make an educated guess as to their problem, and I make a little, okay, they need this for their hypertension, and then we have our little pharmacy set up by our volunteers that gives them the medication. In a little town called La this was probably about a year and a half ago. You know, when I first went, my first trip there was in 2012. I was not a believer when I went. I thought I was a believer, but I didn't know I wasn't. You know, I really was not a believer. I had it up here, you know, I understood the truth, but I didn't really have it in here. And so, coming back from that trip in 2012, before we came back, I was working with this guy called Annis was his name. Annis was about 5 feet tall. He'd fallen off a roof when he was a kid and had a rebar go through the left side of his chest. He could walk, but not with ease. Annis sold minutes on cell phones to support himself and his mother. So he took a week off to work, to be an interpreter for me. That's when I saw the Holy Spirit actually at work. You know, when I was in August of 2012, I said, that's what I want. Okay, God, you know, I know you are who you say you are, and I want to be part of that. So that's, you know, I owe a great debt. He'd been working on me for a long time. I know that he'd been working on me. So that takes me back to the story in Lava Lake. This lady comes in, and she was probably in her mid-30s, and she had a question. She said, I've been out there listening. I've heard Revelation 3:20. Can you explain to me what Revelation 3:20 is? And I said, you know, he stands at your door knocking. There's not a handle for him to get in that door. There's a handle on your side of the door. So he's been pursuing you. If you want, all you have to do is open that door. He'll come in, he'll have a meal with you, and have a meal with him. Meaning that open yourself up, open up your heart to him, and he can be your Savior. And she said, that's what I want. I was able to walk her out in front of this crowd. And, you know, here's a new sister in Christ. So, I mean, that would make any trip worth it. I have another story. We were going to a place called Paradel, which is west of Jacques Bell. And it was well known for being a center for voodoo. Okay, so, you know, when you talk about, what about voodoo and what about religion in Haiti? Well, what's said is that 90% of Haitians are Catholic and 100% are voodoo. So it's, neither one of those is true, but there's a lot of voodoo there. Yeah. So we knew we were going to face some obstacles going to this city. So I'm sitting in the pickup truck with Pastor Duplessis. We have supplies in the back. In front of us is a pickup truck with a canvas on it, loaded with people and food and generators. And so we got out about 45 minutes. There's a flat tire on the truck. There it is. We knew, you know, Satan is after us. So we said, well, we'll just change the flat tire. The driver got out. The wheel, the right or the left rear wheel was flat. He couldn't get the wheel off. It was rusted so badly, and you can't, you know, we'd call AAA, right? No AAA, so we're screwed. And so I'm sitting there with Pastor and trying to figure out what to do. And about 10 minutes later, this big white dump truck pulls up beside the truck in front of us. And in Creole, he said, "You guys need some help?" So they loaded everything into his truck. I told Pastor, I said, "Come on, you called him, I know you did." I was sitting there with him all the time. He said, "No, Tom, God provides." Amen. So, I mean, another powerful. In Haiti, you don't have all of the frills, so things get to be basic very quickly. You know, and so when you have nothing, it's easier to understand. It's easier to understand how someone can forgive you. For somehow there are a lot. When we go out, we'll have 5, 10 conversions on each day that we go out. And you know, when the first time there, I thought that's no big deal. If you have one, it makes everything worthwhile. So, I guess that's my story. Any questions, please? If there are any questions at all? Because I know a lot of you guys know a lot more about this than I do. You know, I've been spending the last 5 years trying to catch up, reading a lot, and I tell you, I just got at home. They just started a series. The first series was Science in the Bible, which for me, you know, I was so much of a secularist. I needed to have evidence, and this series was just fabulous. I mean, basically, they start off with the Big Bang Theory. You know, well, I was, well, the Big Bang Theory. Well, it did happen. I'm sure that it happened, but when you look at the physics of it, if you would, we know that the universe is expanding. If you theoretically reverse that and bring it all back to one particle, you say, well, that's where it started. Well, how did it start? Well, if you have a big bang, you have to have a big banger. So that makes so much sense now, you know? And the universe is so fine-tuned that if it just is off by 1%, this whole thing falls apart. You know, so could that happen by accident? Yeah. As a matter of fact, they did the statistics on that. If you take a stack of dimes that cover, say, the state of Ohio, and it goes to the moon, and in that stack of dimes you put one red dime, and you pick that dime out blindfolded, that's the same chance that this happened by chance. Okay, so to believe that, you have to have a lot of faith.
Yeah.
You know, to be an atheist takes a tremendous amount of faith. So, yes. Oh, and Dennis here has an opportunity in Columbus about a year ago to help us sort medication. And I want to add this before I answer your question. I know, but before I answer your question, it was 1 week before I was ready to go, had all the medication, and I got these spasms in my back. I mean, I've had back surgery, so I don't, you know, back's hurt. But this was so bad, I could hardly get out of bed. And it happened the next day, and the next day. So we're supposed to leave in a few days. So I call our team leader, I said, I don't know how to tell you this. I can't go. I don't know what you're gonna do. So they said, well, we'll figure something out. God will provide. They went down there, as soon as they get there, Pastor Duplessis said, hey, we have an unemployed physician here, a Haitian physician, that's looking for something to do for the week. Is it possible that you guys would hire him? He would, me thinking, yeah, I'm dispensable. You know, how things work like that, it's not a coincidence. You know, in my mind, it's not a coincidence. Yeah.
So, my question is, and being on a few mission trips myself, I can understand what the customs department is like in a foreign country, and I often wondered if you had any trouble with the amount of pills and drugs that you take down there getting through customs in Haiti.
Yes, a year ago, customs said, you're gonna have to show us all the documentation on all of this medication, you know, all the paperwork. And I said, you know, 14 cases for the medication, I don't have any paperwork. Well, so we called Pastor Duplessis and Jacques Mel, and he called some people, and they called some people, and somebody paid some people, and we got through. Yeah. Yeah, but that's a big concern. I know Randy Mortensen has a hospital in Haiti and does a lot of tremendous work down there, and I've talked with him about that. They have a method of getting medication shipped, I think it's somewhere south of here, that there's a plane that will take medication to Haiti, gets it to Port-au-Prince, gets it through customs, goes to a warehouse, then his people pick it up. But they have pharmacies, they're a lot more organized down there than we are. So we're still trying to figure out a way to get the medication locally as much as possible. But to this date, we don't have it. Yeah. But customs is, an issue there.
How often do you go down there and for how long a period?
Yeah, well, someone from a team goes 2 or 3 times a year, and it's 7 to 10 days. That's the standard. And it's just a way of doing it. And to me, the medical care, I used to say was bait and switch. Okay, we're going to give you, and it's not free medical care. We actually charge them about a quarter, which is significant. You know, because again, we don't want to, because there may be a local physician, we're not going to take work away from him. So these people get a little discount, you know, we're not there that often. And so we want to not take things away from Haitians that Haitians could do. You know, that the travesty in Haiti, that book of Travesty in Haiti goes into great detail about all of the with good intentions, how things have, a lot of Haitians then have become dependent on international aid. An example of that is that they used to produce a lot of rice. Well, particularly after the earthquake, they started shipping so much rice in that people could get rice for free, put the rice farmers out of business. Yeah. People send shoes down there. That sounded like a good idea. We'll send thousands of shoes there. Well, the shoe salesman's out of business. So, you know, those are unintended consequences of good intentions. Yeah.
Do they still have military police down there now?
I'm sorry?
They still have military police down there?
They have Haitian police. The United Nations was there until about a year ago. And it was the Brazilian troops were there the last of the United Nations troops. And they, as a matter of fact, we were down there when they pulled out. And there was a big speech by the Brazilian general. Unfortunately, one of the ladies I was in a truck with from home, she speaks Portuguese, so she was able to interpret it for us. You know, there was a big United Nations force there after the earthquake.
Yeah.
And again, unintended consequence of there were troops from Nepal, and they brought cholera with them. Several thousand people killed or died of cholera just because they brought it with them. You know. Well, there were 250,000 people died during the earthquake. Yeah.
Are you only familiar with Haiti, or are there other parts of Central America that you're familiar with?
Oh, that I've not done any mission work anywhere else.
Okay. In Haiti, does the government do they offer, aside from what the missionaries provide, does the government provide any extent amount of to certain grades of education or healthcare for its own people?
There are schools, but they're really sporadic. I can tell you that with the Baraka Church, where Pastor Duplessis is located, he started a school. They go through K through 8. He's also started a university there where you can get a degree in business administration, medical administration, and they also have sort of a seminary where they train people in theology to work in the home churches, in the 36 home churches. But as far as is there national health care? No. Most people that are going to go see a doctor is pay as you go.
And what about education though? At all levels, including graduate level, what kind of school?
You know, if they want to go to graduate school, they typically go to Cuba, France, but
Well, what about vocational education? Do they get able to teach them how to be plumbers or electricians or anything else?
it's pretty, the government's pretty chaotic there.
Well,
You know, they're turning,
the reason I'm bringing this up is the question of humanitarian, you know, about God and the missions, and whether it's in this country taking care of the little kids that, we have 3,000 homeless kids right here in Brevard. We had 7 kids commit suicide last year, little children. And so the question I have is, and then we have caravans of people pouring up here, and I wonder about Honduras and how much education or health care they want, because we have people in California offering them free health care if they come up here, and they're going to get free education, meaning all of us will pay for it, in addition to whatever we give to charity every year. So let's give quite a substantial amount. So I just thought I'd be interested in any of your comments about this, because their own government wants to mistreat them like Venezuela does, or if they don't want to give them any kind of assistance in getting going in life, so they can't develop industries, like for example, they have in Brazil or Argentina, then I don't see, it's going to be a continuing catastrophe.
I agree.
With all these caravans pouring up here, and you can feel sorry for them, and as Christians we can do, but we can only take care of so many people.
Yeah, over the years, there have been scores of Haitians that have left the country any way they can. Actually, as Dr. Morquette that I mentioned in Port-au-Prince has $2. They both live in Canada.
I want to ask you something else. There was a foundation that was supposed to provide its money to the Haitians that raised money for earthquake victims specifically. And it was actually run by a former government official when she was Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, Clinton Foundation. Now they raised $150 million, but the last I saw, they'd given 6% or $9 million. So that means somebody's holding $141 million. Do you know anything about that as it affects not politics, but the benefit of the people that were supposed to receive it?
Yeah, I'm sure very few people got any of that. Yeah.
When I was down there in '76, scale wages was 25 cents an hour, so my scale was 12.5 cents an hour. So you can imagine. Unless you go on a mission trip, you can't talk anything about mission, because it's a whole different lifestyle. You know, people they're very creative with what little bit they got. And
Yeah. I think a third of the population is under the age of 15 right now. So there's a huge youth.
Did they ever go after that, what was his name, the dictator that took all his money and brought it over, sent it over to Switzerland? Did they ever recover any of that from that dictator?
The Duvaliers?
The who?
Papa Doc?
Yeah.
I don't have any idea.
Tom, would you say a prayer for us to pray us out of here?
Oh, yeah. Father, thank you that you're real. Thank you that you're here with us today. Thank you that you can change our hearts. Thank you that you can come and live within us. Thank you that the work we do for you is not because you are demanding us to work. We work for you because we love you, and we want to reflect the love that you've given to us. And I thank you for the fellowship that these men here in Melbourne and the surrounding areas can enjoy here with us today. Amen.
Gentlemen, thanks for coming today. Next week, we're going to do something a little different next week. We won't have a speaker. The speaker will be you. Jason, we've done this before. Jason Hedman, an attorney from Merritt Islands, who works closely with the cocoa fuel, is going to come and bring a verse out of the Bible. We're going to read the verse out of the Bible, and then you'll get to share your thoughts on that verse. So it'll be real interesting. Well, I got you. Don't forget the pickle jar down there. Sonny says mighty good to us, so let's be good to them. Thanks, and see you next week.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.